Before we start, I want to say that only 1% of you are subscribed. Please subscribe because when we reach 1,000 subscribers, I will post a special video for you. Ethan barely contained his excitement as he adjusted the receiver in the observatory. His colleague, Jason, was tapping on the keyboard, his eyes fixed on the screen showing streams of data. "Are you seeing this spike?" Jason asked, pointing to the graphs. Ethan leaned over for a closer look. "That's no ordinary solar flare or background noise. It's structured." Across the room, another member of their team, Dr. Thomas Keller, overheard the exchange and walked over. Keller was the seasoned lead of the project, always skeptical until every test was conclusive. "Boys, what's the commotion?" Keller asked, peering over his glasses. Ethan responded, "We might be onto something, Tom. This signal repeats. It's got a pattern that doesn't match natural sources." Keller raised an eyebrow. "A repeating signal? At this frequency? You think we're talking about extraterrestrial intelligence?" "That's the best explanation we have right now," Jason chimed in, scrolling through the data. "Nothing we know can produce this pattern naturally." Keller rubbed his chin thoughtfully. "Okay, let's not get ahead of ourselves. We need to rule out all terrestrial sources. Interference satellites. You know the drill." Ethan nodded. "We've already started that, Tom. So far, everything points up there." He gestured broadly towards the sky. The room buzzed with a mixture of excitement and anxiety as more team members gathered around the screens. Keller took charge, directing tasks and dividing responsibilities. "Sarah, double-check the satellite logs. Make sure we're not just picking up a stray signal from some secret satellite." Sarah, their communications specialist, nodded as she pulled up the relevant databases. "On it, Tom. And I'll contact the other observatories. If they confirm the signal and its origin point, we'll know it's not just our equipment glitching," Jason added, already drafting emails to their international counterparts. As the team worked, Ethan couldn't help but feel a surge of adrenaline. He joined Sarah, watching her cross-reference data. "Imagine if it's really them, Sarah. Intelligent life. Reaching out." Sarah glanced at him, her expression a mix of skepticism and hope. "We've been fooled by comets and encrypted satellite signals before. Let's keep it tight and professional. If this is real, it changes everything." Keller overheard their conversation as he passed by. "It does change everything. But remember, we're scientists. We don't believe, we prove." Hours flew by as confirmations started coming in from other observatories. The signal was real, not from Earth, and unmistakably regular. Ethan stood by Keller as the older man spoke on a conference call with leading astrophysicists around the world. "We've got something extraordinary here," Keller was saying. "We need to coordinate our monitoring efforts and keep this quiet until we're absolutely sure." Ethan thought about what this discovery could mean. As the team's excitement grew palpable, he felt a profound sense of responsibility. They were potentially the first humans ever to confirm contact with an alien civilization. By the end of the day, the room was abuzz with cautious celebration and fervent work. Ethan, Jason, and Keller stood together, looking at the data that might just be humanity's first interaction with alien life. "We need to keep our heads," Keller reminded them softly. "Tomorrow, we go again. Double-check everything." Ethan nodded, his mind racing with possibilities. As he packed up to leave for the night, he felt the weight and wonder of the cosmos on his shoulders. This was the beginning of something new, something incredible, and he was at the heart of it. Ethan arrived early at the lab the next morning, coffee in hand, still riding the high of last night's discovery. He found Jason already there, frowning at the monitor. "Morning, Jay. What's with the face?" "We should be celebrating," Ethan said, setting his coffee down. Jason turned, his expression grave. "It's gone, Ethan." "What's gone?" Ethan asked, puzzled. "The element. The sample from yesterday's experiment. It's missing." Ethan's heart sank. "Are you sure? Maybe Keller moved it." "He's always reorganizing things." Jason shook his head. "I already checked with him. He came in early too. Said he wanted to see the sample under fresh light." "It wasn't where you left it." Ethan felt a rush of confusion and anger. "This can't be happening. Not now. Let's review the security tapes." They moved to the security room where George, the night shift security officer, was already pulling up the footage. "Hey guys, got a heads up about the missing sample. You're going to want to see this," George said, his tone unusually serious. The footage was grainy, but it showed the interior of their high-security lab. The timestamp indicated the early hours of the morning. They watched as a figure, shrouded in a nondescript cloak, entered the lab. There was no sign of forced entry. How did they get in without tripping the alarms? Ethan muttered. George pointed to the screen. "Watch this." The figure approached the container holding the element. It didn't touch anything unnecessarily. A device in its hand emitted a soft glow, and then the container unlocked itself. "Advanced tech, way beyond anything we've got," Jason noted. Whoever they are, they knew exactly what they were looking for. Ethan rubbed his forehead, anxiety replacing his initial excitement. "We need to track this down and fast. That element is not just valuable. It's dangerous in the wrong hands." Jason nodded. "I'll get on the phone with our contacts in the government. They need to know about this." As Jason made calls, Ethan worked with George to isolate every frame of the intrusion, looking for any clue that might tell them who was behind it. Later, Dr. Keller joined them, his face tense. "I've alerted our top brass. They're treating this as a matter of national security." Meanwhile, Ethan, was there anyone who showed undue interest in our work lately? Any unusual communications? Ethan racked his brain. Nothing specific, but there was that conference last month. I spoke about our theoretical applications. Could someone have been scouting us? Possible, Keller conceded. We need to revisit every interaction. I'll compile a list of attendees and cross-reference it with known entities. The day progressed with the team switching between their investigation and maintaining their regular monitoring duties. Jason came back from his calls with more bad news. The government is on high alert, but there's little they can do without more information. And they're worried about the implications of this technology being public. Ethan leaned against the wall, feeling the weight of the situation. We let something slip through our fingers, something potentially world-changing. Keller placed a firm hand on Ethan's shoulder. We'll find it, Ethan. This is a setback, but it's not the end. We're on this. The team gathered around the lab table, maps and documents strewn about. Let's think outside the box, Keller said. Any idea where to start is a good idea right now. Ethan, despite the despair, felt a spark of determination. They were down but not out. As they pooled their knowledge, piecing together fragments of information, a plan began to form. They would use their scientific network to track the element's unique energy signature. By the end of the chapter, the team had established a makeshift command center, each member fueled by a mix of concern and the thrill of the chase. They were united, more determined than ever to retrieve what was theirs and protect their research from falling into unknown hands. In the makeshift command center, Ethan, Keller, and Jason huddled around multiple screens, each displaying data feeds and satellite imagery. The atmosphere was tense, the weight of their task hanging heavily in the air. Anything on the thermal scans, Ethan? Keller asked, his voice tight with anticipation. Still scanning for anomalies. Whatever tech they used to steal the element, it's sophisticated and low emission, Ethan replied, his eyes scanning lines of data. Jason chimed in from the adjacent terminal. I've reached out to our international partners. They're on high alert and monitoring any unusual activity that matches our descriptions. Keller nodded in approval. Good, keep them in the loop. The more eyes we have, the better. As they worked, George entered the room, his hand holding a printout. Guys, you might want to see this. I've been tracing the security breaches and noticed a pattern. Ethan took the paper and studied it. These access points, they form a route. They were planning their escape path. Keller leaned over his shoulder. Can we predict their next move? Possibly, Ethan mused. If we assume their path continues along these coordinates, they might be heading towards a less monitored space sector. Jason quickly plotted the coordinates on a map. That sector, it's near the old satellite relay. If we boost the signal, we might catch them. Keller's eyes lit up with a spark of strategy. Do it. George, prepare the mobile tracking unit. Ethan, Jason, you're with me. We're going to intercept them. The team geared up quickly, loading their vehicle with all necessary equipment. The drive was tense, each member lost in their thoughts, considering the implications of their mission. Arriving at the satellite relay, Ethan and Jason set up the enhanced tracking equipment while Keller coordinated with their global partners, updating them on their position and plan. Jason adjusted the satellite dish, aligning it with the coordinates they'd predicted. Okay, we're set. Boosting signal now. Ethan monitored the incoming data. Wait, I've got something. It's faint, but it's definitely a manufactured energy signature, not natural. Keller joined him, looking at the screen. That's got to be our stolen element. Can we track it? With this setup, we can keep a lock on it as long as it doesn't jump too far. We need to stay close. Ethan's fingers flew over the keyboard, refining the signal lock. As night fell, the team settled into a rhythm of monitoring and waiting. Keller brewed coffee, passing cups to Ethan and Jason, who were glued to their monitors. Keller, how did you get into this field? Jason asked, seeking to break the tension. Keller smiled, the lines on his face deepening. I was always fascinated by the stars, but it was the mystery, the unknown, that drew me in. Every day, we might discover something that changes how we see the universe. Ethan listened, his respect for Keller growing. We're doing something important, he reflected aloud. Not just for us, but for everyone back home. Keller nodded solemnly. Yes, and right now, our focus is on getting that element back safely. It represents a significant leap forward for humanity. The energy signature suddenly spiked, and Ethan pointed to the screen. They're moving and fast. We need to follow. The team packed up, jumping back into their vehicle. They drove through the night, following the signal that darted across their screens. This feels like something out of a spy thriller, Jason joked, trying to lighten the mood. Only this isn't a movie, it's real, and the stakes are high, Keller responded, his gaze fixed on the road. As dawn approached, the signal stabilized. They've stopped, Ethan announced, checking the GPS. Looks like they're at an old industrial complex. Very little foot traffic, ideal for keeping hidden. Then that's where we're going, Keller decided. As they approached their destination, the first light of dawn crept across the sky, casting a soft glow over the landscape. The industrial complex loomed ahead, a sprawling mass of old warehouses and rusty equipment. Be ready for anything, Keller said as they equipped themselves with recording devices and other tools needed to reclaim their stolen element. The chapter ends with the team cautiously approaching the complex, prepared to confront the thieves and recover their precious cargo. Their unity and shared purpose stronger than ever in the face of adversity. As they approached the dilapidated industrial complex under the early morning sky, Ethan, Jason, and Keller prepared for what might lie ahead. The place was eerily silent except for the distant hum of awakening city life. Keep your eyes peeled. We don't know what or who we might encounter, Keller instructed, his voice low and steady. Jason nodded, checking his equipment. All gear is operational. We can start scanning for the element as soon as we're inside. Ethan led the way to a rusted gate, its lock broken long ago. The trio slipped through, their steps cautious and measured as they navigated the cluttered grounds filled with old machinery and scattered debris. Signal stronger this way, Ethan whispered, pointing towards the largest of the warehouses. They moved towards it, their sensors out, scanning for any sign of the stolen element. Inside the warehouse, the air was cool and musty. Shafts of light pierced through holes in the roof, casting long shadows. As they ventured deeper, the signal on Ethan's device beeped faster. It's here, he said, excitement tinged with nervousness in his voice. Close by. Keller raised his hand, signaling them to halt. Jason, check that corner with the thermal camera. Ethan, with me. Let's approach from this side. They split up, moving silently over the concrete floor. Jason's thermal camera picked up a faint heat signature behind some crates. He gestured to the others, and they regrouped, approaching the spot cautiously. Keller whispered, on 3. 1, 2. They rounded the crates swiftly, only to find a small, makeshift lab set up with their stolen element at its core, humming quietly, its casing slightly ajar as if recently accessed. But there was no one in sight. Looks like they left in a hurry, Jason observed, examining the area. Ethan knelt beside the device, careful not to touch anything. They were using it. For what? I'm not sure. We need to gather as much intel as possible. Keller was already on his phone, speaking quietly. We've located the element. Securing the site now. Yes, we'll need a cleanup crew. As Ethan and Jason began documenting the setup, Keller surveyed the perimeter, ensuring they weren't walking into a trap. After confirming the area was secure, he helped collect samples of materials left behind for analysis. Whoever they are, they knew exactly how to use the element. This wasn't random thievery. It was organized and scientific, Keller noted, his tone a mix of admiration and concern. Ethan stood, looking at the device. We can learn from this. How they adapted our tech might even help us advance our own. Jason was packing up their findings. I'll get these to the lab ASAP. The sooner we understand, the better. The cleanup crew arrived, a team of professionals in biohazard suits who began securing the element and all related materials. Keller supervised the operation, while Ethan and Jason briefed the team on everything they had observed. As they watched the professionals at work, Ethan felt a wave of relief mixed with a fierce curiosity. We got it back, but this is far from over. We need to find out who they are. Keller, watching the crew seal the element in a containment unit, nodded in agreement. This is just the beginning. We've seen what they can do, and now we need to be prepared for their next move. Jason added, and we'll be ready. Today we proved we can handle this. The drive back was quiet, each man lost in thought, processing the morning's events and the implications for their future work. As they returned to the lab, the first rays of the sun were warming the city, a new day dawning, much like the new era of challenges and discoveries they were about to embark on. This chapter set a tone of cautious optimism mixed with determination, as the team not only recovered their stolen element, but also gained valuable insights into the capabilities and intentions of their unknown adversaries. Back at the lab, Ethan, Keller, and Jason convened in the main conference room with the analyzed data and samples laid out before them. The mood was intense as they prepared to delve into the findings from the makeshift lab they had discovered. Keller initiated the discussion, his voice firm. Let's start by understanding the modifications made to our element. The alterations are sophisticated, beyond what we initially anticipated. Jason handled the technical briefing, projecting images of the element's altered structure onto the screen. Here you can see the micro-adjustments. They've manipulated its molecular structure to enhance output, something we hadn't achieved yet. Ethan leaned forward, intrigued. It's almost like they knew the potential of the element better than we did. How is that possible unless they've been observing us for a while? The room fell silent as the implication hung in the air. Keller broke the silence. That's a disturbing thought, but it might be the truth. Our security needs a serious overhaul. Let's focus on what we can do now, Jason suggested, switching slides. Based on these modifications, I think we can reverse engineer their changes to boost our own research. Ethan nodded, his mind racing with possibilities. We could use this to our advantage. Their technology could leapfrog our capabilities by years. As they discussed technical specifics, George walked in, a stack of intercepted communications in hand. You might want to add this to the mix, he said, laying the papers on the table. We've intercepted messages that suggest the thieves are part of a larger network. This wasn't a one-off. Keller picked up the top sheet, scanning the contents quickly. This is good work, George. It seems they are still nearby, possibly waiting to strike again. Ethan's focus sharpened. We should consider setting a trap. If they want more of the element, we can use that as bait. Keller considered this, then nodded. It's risky, but it might be our only chance to find out who we're dealing with and possibly negotiate. The team spent the next few hours devising a plan. They decided to simulate a new breakthrough in the Elements application, spreading discreet hints through their secure channels, ones they suspected were compromised. We'll need to be careful, Jason warned as they finalized the trap. If they catch on, we might not get another shot at this. Keller stood, stretching his back. Then let's make sure they believe it. We'll set up the lab for a demonstration. Ethan, you'll lead the presentation. Make it convincing. As preparations for the sting operation went underway, Ethan worked tirelessly, refining every detail of their breakthrough. Meanwhile, Jason enhanced their security measures, and George monitored the compromised channels for any hint of the thieves taking the bait. The night before the operation, the team gathered for a final review. Keller looked each man in the eye. Tomorrow could very well define the future of our project. Stay sharp and remember, we're not just scientists today. We're also guardians of this technology. The following day, as they set up the demonstration in the lab, tension was high. Security was tighter than ever, with every possible entry point monitored. Ethan rehearsed his part, while Jason checked communications, and Keller coordinated with external security forces. As guests, carefully vetted and watched, began to arrive, Ethan took his position. The lab buzzed with disguised security personnel and a few genuine scientists. As he started the demonstration, his eyes frequently flicked to the monitors, where George was giving subtle signals. Halfway through, George's hand went up, a sign that their suspects had taken the bait and were now approaching the lab. Keller quietly positioned himself near the entrance, ready to intercept. Ethan continued, his voice steady despite the adrenaline. As the demonstration peaked, several figures tried to blend in with the late arrivals. Keller and his team moved smoothly to intercept them, guiding them discreetly into a secured room. The chapter ends with Ethan concluding his demonstration, unaware of the successful apprehension, focused solely on the rapt attention his breakthrough had garnered, all according to their meticulously laid plan. In a secure room within the laboratory complex, Keller, Ethan, and Jason stood across from two captured intruders, their identities obscured by hoods. The tension was palpable as Keller began the interrogation. "Who are you, and why are you interested in our element?" Keller's voice was stern, his posture authoritative. One of the intruders, a man with a strong build, spoke first, his voice calm and measured. "My name is Liran. We meant no harm. Our interest was purely scientific." Ethan, observing closely, noted Liran's composed demeanor. "You stole from us and invaded our privacy. That goes beyond scientific interest. What were you planning to do with our research?" Liran's companion, a younger male named Soren, shifted uncomfortably. "Our world is dying. We sought a new energy source to save it. We did not come to steal but to learn and share knowledge." Jason, who had been silent, stepped forward. "If your intentions were peaceful, why not approach us openly? Why the secrecy and theft?" Soren looked down, a hint of regret in his tone. "We've watched your world from afar. Your distrust for outsiders is well known. We feared rejection and acted out of desperation." Keller softened slightly. "While I understand your predicament, you must realize that trust is earned. You've started on the wrong foot here." Ethan, moved by their plight, suggested a potential resolution. "Perhaps there's a way to turn this situation around. If their need is genuine, we might assist them under strict oversight. It could be beneficial to observe their technology as well." Keller considered this, then nodded at Ethan. "Very well. We'll propose a collaboration, but on our terms. Full transparency and cooperation. Anything less, and this arrangement ends." Liran and Soren agreed eagerly, relieved at the opportunity for redemption. Over the next few days, Liran and Soren were integrated into the project under close supervision. Their knowledge of advanced energy systems was profound, offering new perspectives on the utilization of the stolen element. During one late-night session, while examining the element's properties, Ethan and Liran found themselves alone in the lab. The atmosphere was relaxed, a stark contrast to their first encounter. "You know, I misjudged you," Ethan admitted, adjusting the microscope. "Your technology is impressive. We could learn a lot from each other." Liran smiled, grateful for the acknowledgement. "And we have much to learn from you, Ethan. Your passion for discovery is something we value deeply in my culture." As they worked side by side, Ethan felt a growing respect for Liran. They shared stories about their worlds, finding common ground in their commitment to science and the betterment of their people. The collaboration proved fruitful. Over several weeks, new protocols were developed, enhancing the efficiency of the element. The project received accolades from the global scientific community, paving the way for further interstellar cooperation. One evening, after a successful test run, the team gathered to celebrate. Keller raised his glass in a toast. "Here's to unexpected partnerships and the future they bring," he declared. Everyone cheered, including Liran and Soren, who now felt more like part of the team than outsiders. Jason clapped Ethan on the back. Who would have thought, huh? From thieves to teammates. Ethan laughed, looking over at Liran and Soren. Yeah, it's strange how things work out. But I'm glad they did. The chapter closes with the team, including their new alien collaborators, enjoying a moment of camaraderie. The initial mistrust had blossomed into a promising alliance, illustrating how understanding and cooperation can bridge even the vastest of divides. In the ensuing weeks, the collaborative efforts between Ethan, Keller, Jason, Liran, and Soren had not only bridged technological gaps but also fostered a deeper understanding among the team. The lab had become a melting pot of ideas, with each member contributing unique insights that propelled their research forward. One late afternoon, as the sun dipped below the horizon, the team gathered in the conference room to discuss the potential applications of their combined technologies. Keller led the meeting, his tone reflective of the progress they had made. Thanks to the efforts of everyone here, we've developed something that could redefine energy consumption not just on Earth, but possibly on Liran and Soren's planet as well, Keller began. It's a testament to what we can achieve when we set aside differences and focus on common goals. Ethan nodded, his gaze shifting between his human colleagues and their alien partners. This project has changed my perspective in ways I couldn't have imagined. Working with Liran and Soren, learning about their world, it's expanded our horizons. Liran responded warmly, and we've gained more than just scientific insight. Understanding human culture and your approach to problem-solving has been invaluable for us. Soren, usually the quieter of the two, added, yes, and beyond the technology, this has been a journey of trust. We came here under unfortunate circumstances, but now I feel a part of something larger. Jason, who had been meticulously reviewing data on his tablet, looked up. I think we're ready to present our findings to the wider scientific community. We've documented everything, from the initial theft, no point in shying away from how this started, to how we turned a potential disaster into a groundbreaking alliance. Keller agreed. Absolutely. Transparency will be key in ensuring our work is received well. But more importantly, it will show that collaboration like ours can lead to real solutions. The conversation shifted toward planning their presentation at the upcoming International Energy Conference. Ethan was appointed to lead the discussion, supported by Liran and Soren, who would provide first-hand accounts of the collaborative process and its benefits. As they prepared their presentation over the next few days, Ethan spent extra hours with Liran and Soren, fine-tuning their part to ensure the language barrier did not hinder their message. During these sessions, their bond strengthened, and they shared personal stories, further enriching their mutual respect and friendship. One evening, while taking a break in the lab's small lounge, Ethan and Liran discussed their futures. Do you think this kind of partnership could be the norm in the future? Ethan asked, handing Liran a cup of coffee. I hope so, Liran replied, taking a sip. What began as a crisis has taught us both the value of diversity in thought and culture. Maybe it's naive, but I believe we're on to something bigger than any of us. Ethan smiled, his thoughts aligning with Liran's. Not naive at all. If anything, it's visionary. We've proved that it's not only possible but beneficial. Who knows what else we could achieve if more of our worlds collaborated like this? Their conversation was interrupted by Jason, who walked in with a grin. You two ready to change the world tomorrow? Ready as we'll ever be, Ethan replied, his enthusiasm mirrored by Liran's nod. The chapter concludes with the team making final adjustments to their presentation, each member reflecting on the personal and professional growth they had experienced. The anticipation of their scientific debut, coupled with the profound interpersonal connections they had forged, filled the room with a sense of accomplishment and hopeful anticipation for the future. The morning of the International Energy Conference dawned clear and bright. The team, composed of Ethan, Keller, Jason, Liran, and Soren, arrived early at the venue, a sprawling complex buzzing with the world's leading energy experts and innovators. As they set up their booth, Ethan reviewed the presentation one last time with Liran and Soren. The air was thick with anticipation, each of them aware of the importance of the day. Remember, the focus is on collaboration and the mutual benefits it has brought, Ethan reminded them, adjusting the display that showcased their combined technologies. Keller, overseeing the setup, chimed in, let's not just impress them with our science. Let's show them how our working together is just as vital as the results we achieved. Jason tested the interactive display, which allowed visitors to see the effects of their technology in real-time simulations. This should help drive the point home, he said, satisfied with the system's responsiveness. As the conference began, attendees streamed into their booth, drawn by the buzz surrounding their unique international collaboration. Questions flew fast and thick, with experts intrigued not only by the technology but also by the story of how a potential international incident turned into a fruitful partnership. During the formal presentation, Ethan took the lead, his voice steady and clear. Today, we showcase not only a leap forward in energy technology but also a new model for global scientific cooperation, he began, clicking to a slide showing the Earth and Liran's planet side by side. Liran took over, his command of human language much improved. Our planets are light years apart, but our goals are the same: survival and prosperity. What started with missteps ended with shared success. Soren added, this project helped us see beyond our differences to the necessity of our collaboration. We learned from Earth scientists and shared knowledge crucial for both our worlds. The audience listened intently, many nodding in understanding and agreement. Keller then discussed the technical aspects, explaining the enhancements made to the energy element and the potential applications that could change energy consumption patterns across galaxies. As questions poured in, Jason facilitated the interactive display, demonstrating the practical applications and efficiency improvements. The crowd was particularly impressed with the transparent process and the rapid development cycle facilitated by the partnership. After the presentation, a panel of veteran scientists praised their innovative approach. This could very well be the blueprint for future interstellar scientific relationships, one panelist remarked, a sentiment echoed by many others. The conference concluded with a standing ovation for the team, the applause ringing in their ears as they gathered their belongings. Back at the lab, the team celebrated their success. Keller proposed a toast to new frontiers, both in space and in our minds. May this be the first of many collaborations. Ethan felt a swell of pride as he looked around at his team. We did more than recover stolen property. We built bridges. And maybe, just maybe, we made history today. Jason, always the practical one, added with a grin. And let's not forget the potential patents and applications. We're not just making history. We're setting up for the future. Liran and Soren expressed their gratitude. We return home with more than we hoped for. Thank you, friends, for turning conflict into cooperation. The chapter ends as the team plans their next steps, discussing further enhancements and additional collaborative projects. They had not only advanced technology but had also forged a new path for international and interstellar relations, showing that even from the darkest incidents, light could emerge, guiding the way forward in unity and purpose.